This story happened my junior year of high school. Our school started pretty early in the morning, and I always had a very hard time getting up. Occasionally, I would say about once a month, I would sleep in and miss the bus. That meant I had to ask my mother to drive me to school on her way to work. She didn't mind, but was always a little disappointed. On this one particular occasion, I overslept by a lot and missed the bus. My class had already started, so I got my mom to drive me to school. When I got to school, I went to the front door and had to show my school ID to be let in. They then gave me a pass to get to my class. But I really hated walking into my class late and disrupting it. I always thought that was embarrassing, so what I would always do instead was go to my favorite bathroom, which was the least busiest one upstairs, and then wait inside the bathroom until my class was over. Then I would walk out during passing time, and nobody would know I had been late. It's weird, I know, but I was a shy and awkward kid back then. On this particular day, when I arrived at the bathroom, I was disappointed to see that it was being cleaned by a janitor. I walked down the hall to a nearby storage room that I knew was rarely used. I went inside and shut the door. I went to the wall and went behind a few boxes of equipment. Then I took out my phone and my headphones to pass the time remaining of class, which was roughly about 10 minutes. Finally, class time was over, and I emerged from the closet and back into the halls of the school. But when I did, the halls were empty. I walked to one of the main hallways nearby, which was always very crowded during passing time, but there was still nobody there at all. I double-checked my watch and the time on my phone several times to make sure the time was correct. It was very confusing to me, until I realized that we had to be on a lockdown of some sort. It was the only thing that made sense. As I approached a corner, I heard footsteps. I didn't know if this was a drill or if it was the real deal, but I did know I could get in trouble for being found in the halls, so I went back to the storage closet I had been hiding in. I made it back without being seen by whoever the footsteps belonged to. However, I heard them keep coming closer. I turned off the lights in the room and went back to hiding behind some boxes. I heard the footsteps get closer and closer, and then stop at the door. My heart was pounding as I hoped the door wouldn't open, but then it did. I tried my best to not make any noise at all. I couldn't see what was going on at all, but I knew the door had been opened, and someone was in there with me. The room was not all that big, and I'm guessing they were about 15 feet away from me. Each second that went by while I was in there felt like a minute. I heard nothing at all, but I could see light in the room, and the door was still open. I also hadn't heard anybody walk away. I was so scared that I thought about just giving myself up, hoping that it was somebody on the school staff that was in there. But I had a strong feeling that it wasn't, and I kept silent. Finally, I heard the footsteps walk back to the door and leave. I stayed in the room and laid in the same position for at least another 15 minutes or so. Finally, I could barely hear an announcement come over the school intercom, followed by the sound of students walking down the hallway. I then came out of my hiding place and joined in with the rest of the students. I found a few of my friends and asked them what happened. They told me all they heard was that a suspicious man had been arrested in our school. I went about the rest of my day at school just like any other, and I never told anybody what I had experienced. This happened around 5 years ago. I was in 8th grade at the time and in middle school. It was a normal day in the 5th period when I needed to go to the bathroom. I asked my teacher if I could go to the bathroom, and she said yes. I walked out of the classroom and down the hall. When I got to the bathroom, I went into a stall and closed the door. After about 30 seconds, I heard the door to the bathroom open. I thought it was another student, so I stayed quiet and I heard the person's shoes on the floor. They sounded like boots. I was a little curious because not many people wore boots at our school. The person didn't even go into a stall. He just stood outside by the door. I looked under the stall door and saw that it was a fully grown man standing by the door. He saw me look and then walked to my stall. He started banging on it, and I got super freaked out. Then he stopped. After about 2 minutes, I heard the bathroom door open and the man leave. I went to call my friend, but as soon as I unlocked my phone, the intercom came on. The person over the intercom told us there was a high-level lockdown and that there was a person in the building who wasn't supposed to be there. I stood on the toilet as we were supposed to do in a lockdown if we were in the bathroom. I stood there for 10 minutes or so until the lady on the intercom told us that the lockdown was over. I still wonder to this day if the man in the bathroom was the person who caused the lockdown. It was one of the scariest moments of my life. The story that I'm about to tell you took place when I was in middle school. It was during the spring semester, and it was a day that I had a dentist appointment. I went to my first class of the day, and then got a pass to leave the school and go to my appointment. My mother was waiting at the front door of the school, and when the time came, drove me to the dentist. I was hoping that my mother would allow me to just go home after my dentist appointment and skip the rest of the school day, but she said no. It was most likely because it was earlier in the day. I got back to school during my third class period. I got let in the front door and then made my way to my classroom, which was on the other end of the school. As I was walking past one of the side doors, I noticed a man wave at me from outside. I don't know what I was thinking, but I walked over to the door and opened it for the man. He smiled and said thanks to me. Then I kept walking to my class. I got to my class, and only about 10 minutes later, we got an announcement that we were in a lockdown. I immediately got a bad feeling remembering the man I had let in. We did what we were supposed to do in a lockdown and went to the back of the classroom and turned all of the lights off. I could tell by how our teacher was acting that it seemed serious. We stayed there for about 30 minutes, and finally the lockdown ended. I heard afterwards that the same man I had let into the building was found hiding in a bathroom with a weapon. Thankfully, nobody was harmed, but I learned a valuable lesson not to let anybody inside.